Star Citizen has raised $128 million for its creation as of the filming of this video. Now, most people would guess that that's a very good thing. Having $128 million as your budget is insanely high compared to what most games have, much less indie games or smaller games or startup games. To have $128 million is Destiny level. It's just insane to have that much money. And most people, most Star Citizen fanboys, they point to this as a reason for its success. They say that the roughly 370 people working on the game and the $128 million behind it are what's going to lead to its success. And I would probably agree with you. But somebody brought up something very interesting. I was reading through comments on a video I did last week discussing Star Citizen and comparing it to other games that have promised a lot. But some of the comments were really interesting, and one comment in particular, this guy, he commented, his username is John Doe, which I find ironic. But he said that what he's most worried about with regard to Star Citizen is the large budget because of Chris Roberts. Now, if you don't know who Chris Roberts is, he is the video game designer. He's the designer of Star Citizen, all right? So he's the guy which essentially, he's the Todd Howard, what Todd Howard is to Skyrim and Fallout, all of those games. He is that designer. He's the head honcho. Now, he's a perfectionist. And one of the stories I heard which really demonstrated this is they were doing a gameplay demo where there was like a glass of water or something, and the water in the glass wasn't moving quite right, and he considered that a bug. Now, most developers would just say, oh, well, that's a small inaccuracy in terms of the physics of the game, but we got bigger things to focus on. And he said, nope, tomorrow, first thing we're going to do, we're going to fix that bug. We're going to make it so the water moves in the cup accurately. That's kind of outset and outlook he has. He approaches the game as a piece of art that isn't done until it's perfect. And typically, people like that can create some really wonderful things. Look at Steve Jobs. He had the same sort of frenetic, just absolutely obsessive compulsive attention to detail. And it's very good when it's controlled and when it's contained. And this is John Doe's point, is that with Steve Jobs, what forced him to find success is his attention to detail, but also on a timeline and a budget, because he had to create something that was affordable. He had limitations. The first computer that Steve Jobs really headed up and created was in the 80s, and it was a $10,000 home PC that didn't sell any copies. The Lisa didn't sell anything because he chose all the best hardware available. He chose everything that was just the biggest and the baddest without realizing that you have to make some sacrifices. And he was eventually booted out of the company because he just wasn't creating anything that was going to be purchasable, that was appealing to customers. He was creating something that was great for the sake of being great rather than what could be sold. And that's not an inherently bad thing. In a business, though, it is. Now, Chris Roberts is the same type of guy. He needs constraints. He needs somebody to tell him, I'm going to give you $10 million, create a video game that defines a generation. And he says, okay, I'm going to go work on it. And either he'll deliver or he won't. When you give somebody like Chris Roberts $128 million, the difficulty is actually putting a game out. When you have $128 million, it's very easy to just rest and you just continually chug away at the game. And you can see this in the scope change. The scope of the game, as it was initially announced on Kickstarter, it's changed so drastically. It is infinitely larger now compared to what they had initially sought. And now that they have the money, they've expanded that. And every time they hit a new milestone in terms of fundraising, they add a new thing that they're going to try to add. They're going to add this, they're going to add that, they're going to expand the universe by 6.7 times, whatever it is. And so this was a very interesting idea by John Doe. that really got me thinking. Is it possible that Star Citizen just gets stuck in this rut because they have so much money that they never really need to make sacrifices in order to put out the game in its entirety, to just settle and do it? Like most artists say, you never complete a piece of art. You never finish it. You only abandon it, whether it's film, whether it's an acting performance, whether it is a YouTube video, whether it's whatever, a video game. You don't ever complete it. You just abandon it. And what John Doe was worried about is that he isn't going to have to abandon it because the money is just continually coming. Now, my stance on it, all right? You've listened to John Doe's stance and that the setup for this. My stance on this issue. I don't think it's a problem. Why? Well, let me tell you why. Yes, they have $128 million, and they have somebody who's insanely focused on attention to detail running the game. Difference is, with Steve Jobs, you put out one product, and that's what happens. Star Citizen is a little different. It's coming out incrementally. It's coming out little by little. Even now, just today, they announced, and I'll leave a link to this in the description below, Star Citizen is free to play for the rest of the month, or at least an element of it. You can do what they're calling a fall 2016 free fly event, where you can essentially just get a free account and you can log in and fly the F-7CM Super Hornet ship, and you can just fly it around in their kind of space simulator, which is super cool, and you can do that for free. Link in the description below, as I said. But this is an example. They're allowing you to try it out little by little by little by little, right? And this is what you saw with Steve Jobs later in his life when he came out with something like, say, the iPhone or the iPod. The initial thing wasn't as perfect as he wanted it to be. He had to make some sacrifices to put it out. But incrementally, he was able to improve it and add stuff, get it better and better and better and better and better until he died. And after that, it still keeps getting better and better and better and better. Same thing is essentially what's going on with Star Citizen, where the initial game, it's not like Battlefield 1, where either the game is out or the game isn't out. With Star Citizen, it's something where they have stuff out already that you can play, and they're adding to it. And sure, maybe you consider like, oh, well, it's the game hasn't come out until I can buy it, on Steam or something. That's not how this game works. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's not how it's structured to work. It's structured to just be, in essence, the same type of idea behind an early access game, where you pay what is essentially an entry fee, and then you get to follow the game as it's created and improved. That's what No Man's Sky should have been. It should have been a $10 title, $15 title, maybe even $20, that you get and that you play, and then as the months roll by, they add to it to lead up to what they had initially promised. Star Citizen has been doing the same kind of thing, where they're saying, okay, we've got a little thing you can play right now, but next month it's going to be bigger, and a year from now it's going to be 3 times as big, and then it's going to continually improve. That's what they're doing. So while I think John Doe's point is interesting, I don't think that it's quite the same comparison, because we're not talking about a traditional game as you would see released on Steam or somewhere else. It's a little different. It's not a new model, but it's not something that we see a lot in video games outside of early access. So, wonderful comment. Again, if you have any comments like that, please leave them down below. I love reading them. But interesting comparison, but I just don't think it is quite accurate. But that's all I have to say. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Smash the like if you liked the video, and as always, subscribe if you haven't already to join the Bowel movement. I love you all. Peace out.